is working. Here it's working. Thank you so much for coming today. I'll just wait a second to let people sit down. Thank you so much, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues. It's my honor to welcome you now to the last session of the FAO Science and Innovation Forum for 2024. This session will delve into the impacts of inclusive innovation, highlighting how diverse perspectives and collaborative efforts can drive transformative change in agri-food systems. Despite the introduction of various innovations, their widespread adoption has been limited. With our panelists today, we will discuss what needs to be done to achieve impact at scale. And in the beginning, I should have also introduced myself. I apologize for that. My name is Beth Crawford. I'm the Chief Scientist at Interim, and we really appreciate all of your active participation in this week's event. I think it's been a real exciting week. So the session today is interpreted in Spanish and English. Earpieces are available in this room, and if you're for the online participants, you have the language choice at the bottom of your screen. So we will first be hearing from our Director General, then we will have a panel discussion, and then we will have a question and answer session. So I invite you to keep your questions in mind throughout this discussion today so that we can also have a vibrant interactive discussion at the end. Now, it is now my honor to invite the FAO Director General, Dr. Chu Dongyu, to provide his opening remarks. Thank you, Dr. Chu.
Thank you, warm welcome me. And good morning, ladies, gentlemen, and the Honorable Minister from Costa Rica, and my close friend from Undersecretary Bonnie from the United States, and my older friend. It was one of the troublemakers in the UN system, not only in FAO, is Ambassador Buddy. He always have 3 words, he learned from the Mr. Wang Yi, Minister of Foreign Affairs. They're both at the same time the ambassador to Japan. 早上好, good morning. 我爱你, I love you. and then 你很漂亮, you are so beautiful. So that's the 3 Chinese phrases he learned from Wang Yi. So no, just warm me up. And ladies, gentlemen, and also I recognize the special representative from San Marino. I said, of course, territory, San Marino is smaller than Italy, but the heart, it's the heart of Italy. Yeah, because you established a republic, first republic in Europe, and of course, you are far ahead of Italy. Italy, I don't know how many years become the republic. Yeah, maybe 1800 years later, and the so I mentioned that no matter big or small, you have something special to offer, to share. And that's not only traditional technology science, and also modern technology science. Let's come to today's topic, inclusiveness. Not only technology science, we need inclusiveness, and also the other things like a business model, like how to operate the FAO smoothly. We need the inclusiveness as well. So, inclusive, how important. I don't want to highlight always, start why, how, where, when, water. Yeah, there's always the 5W, 1H. Yeah, but I think we should more focus on what my understanding inclusiveness for science innovation, especially for cutting-edge technology. If you are a scientist, what means inclusiveness. You should waiting on the people to follow you. Because a lot of scientists, especially cutting-edge scientists, they always complain, politicians, society, they couldn't understand what they're something so special, so revolutionary. I always told my colleagues when I was vice president of academy, I said, please do more public lecture or talk with some key person to try convince them to understand your business and the project. Scientist. So I don't know, someone listening here also scientist. Second, politician. Nowadays, internationally, all the politicians, most of them, or most likely, they are elected. They have any background on science. So being the politician, you have to learn it. And that's why the opening World Food Forum, I said, being in the youth forum, I said that being the leaders, you have to open, willing to learn, and get different ideas from different groups. Some group of scientists say that's so good. Some said, oh no, that's so dangerous, like AI, I know. Yeah, a lot of people talk about AI. Some in favor, some is so afraid to create. The other days I met one senior scientist. He was so afraid of AI. I joked with him, how many years you go to stay here, this planet? Maybe 10 years, 20 years? Don't worry, be happy. You have a limited time. Yeah, I'm a biologist. So you are 80 plus. Don't worry AI too much. If you are 80 plus, it's 18 plus, you have to worry there. Yeah? As a politician, senior people, you have to open. Yeah? I'm so fortunate. DDG, former DDG, actually, Dangusa, former DDG Loha, and they are quite open. At least maybe they could understand, accept something, some level. That's also show the inclusivity. Politicians should be open, willing to learn, and balance the different opinions. And being the FO staff, or in general, who are working for agriculture, in USDA, China, or Costa Rica, or Somalia even, or Italy. Minister of Agriculture, or staff in the Minister of Agriculture, and FAO, we are a little bit in between, you know. Scientists are considered as a politician or leaders, but the leaders never consider we are leaders. We are humble servant, professional servant. And the society, the farmers and the business people, they consider we are leaders. We are professional leaders. Because they say, oh, the politician couldn't understand our business. You should, you have to, you must to understand our business. That's the create the pressure for ourselves. We should balance from political point of view, social point of view, economic point of view, even ethic. That's why I joined the Roman call for AI ethic. I was A-list. 5 years ago, I started. Because I personally was a scientist, and I was a local governor. I was a vice minister in China. So I feel that AI, from 3 angles at least, yeah, people need some answer. Maybe it's not 100% correct, but we should offer some answer for leading the people to try to understand the issues. So that's, I encourage most of you from the profession, from the Minister of Agriculture, USDA, and so on and so forth. We should balance at least the 4 angles: political, economic, social, and scientific. Economic, of course, they have it from government, from private, from farmers for us. You can't ask farmers always plant tree for waiting for 20 years later to have economic return. I always remind my colleagues from the forest department. If you don't have a salary, how can I just ask you to give you 100 hectare plant tree? And for the next 20 years without the income? That's not the pragmatic, that's not a realistic solution, even for forestry. Of course, that's why I'm lucky. I work on the flowers and vegetables, lettuce. 40 days I can harvest and have some money retained. That's why we are horticulture people more commercialized, because generations, no matter United States or Italy or China or Africa, who work with horticulture, with the crop, with vegetables, flowers, are always commercialized first, because push us to think quick, deliver quicker. So it's even within agricultural technology, we have so many different scenarios, different level of tolerance and inclusiveness. So for that, FAO is a platform again, especially Science Innovation Forum. I really appreciate, and my friend Bonnie, you are third time to come to FAO, exclusive one pandemic year, so you are almost every year come. I really appreciate that you make your time to, not easy from USA to here, not like even not neighbors here, Italy, the minister didn't come. I was very frankly told some European ministers, I said, FAO is a platform, you are fortunate host in Italy. If we host in United States, you have to traveling, yeah? At least 9 hours, yeah? From Asia Pacific, it takes 2 days. First, they go to Hawaii, Hawaii to San Francisco, San Francisco to Rome. But look how many ministers from Europe, yeah, come. They didn't appreciate that their ancestors made struggling to move from Washington, D.C. to Rome. After 6 rounds of vote, finally get 32 votes, agreed to move here, 28 want to stay in the United States. But now if we have vote, it might be different. So also, that's also you needed the open and the inclusiveness. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Director General, for those opening remarks. I'm pleased now to invite to the stage our distinguished panelists who will be sharing their thoughts with you, and then we will be opening it up, as I said, for a Q&A session. So let me first invite, please, to the stage His Excellency Victor Carvajal Porras, who is the Minister for Agriculture and Livestock in the Republic of Costa Rica. And we have Mr. Robert Bonney, who is the Undersecretary for Farm Production, and Conservation at USDA in Washington, D.C. Thank you so much. Please feel free to take a seat. Thank you. And His Excellency Badr Hisham, Assistant Minister for Strategic Partnerships, Excellence and Initiatives, the Ministry of Planning and Economic Development in Cairo, Egypt. Please feel free to take a seat. And then we have Ms. Neni Rossini, who is the President of SIT Group in San Marino. And finally, we have Joe Puri, who is the Special Advisor, Strategic Initiatives at IFAD. So sometimes technologies don't work. My screen froze, but I have it back now. Thank you so much. Great. So, Your Excellency, let me begin with you. Your Excellency Victor Carvalho Porras. So my question is the following. What specific innovations from your country have demonstrated the most significant impact on improving food security and reducing poverty? And how can these lessons be applied to benefit small-scale producers globally? Over to you, Your Excellency. Try again.
Okay. En Costa Rica nosotros hemos desarrollado una serie de programas históricos para poder trabajar con las zonas rurales. Lo que hemos promovido es el abastecimiento institucional del gobierno por cárceles, escuelas, colegios, ligarlo a los pequeños agricultores en las zonas rurales que son expensos o propensos a estar en el umbral de pobreza, y de esa manera, al pagarles el precio justo, podemos ir disminuyendo la pobreza en las zonas rurales a la vez que damos seguridad alimentaria, porque no necesariamente tienen que producir a un precio de mercado competitivo, y es ahí donde los pequeños agricultores tienen más problemas. Ahora, cuando hablamos de lo que estamos trabajando históricamente, Costa Rica se ha caracterizado por ser un país con una producción sostenible, un respeto a la parte ambiental, y ahí hemos posicionado algunas oficinas como Fonafifo en la colocación de bonos de carbono, asociado principalmente a protección de bosques. Pero bueno, ahora que tenemos un mercado de carbono un poco más desarrollado, debemos necesariamente hacer partícipe a nuestros productores de los beneficios que eso genera. Estamos en un programa con Banco Mundial y FIDA justamente para poder certificar el carbono capturado adicional de todos nuestros agricultores y productores, para de esa manera no solo generar un ingreso por la venta de los bienes que producen y alimentos, sino también un ingreso adicional por el carbono que se capturan en los suelos de Costa Rica. Costa Rica tiene una matriz muy importante de ambiental, donde al menos nuestro sector ganadero protege el 50% de las áreas en bosque, y esa justamente protección nos permite capturar carbono en los bosques, y ahora queremos capturar carbono y certificarlo para nuestra contabilidad nacional en las fincas productivas, y ese excedente de carbono estamos incorporando un precio justamente para reconocérselo a los agricultores y poder continuar haciendo cambios estructurales a nivel productivo con bioinsumos, biofertilizantes, producción sostenible, y que ellos logren ver más allá del beneficio productivo de realizar estas prácticas, un beneficio económico al aplicar estas prácticas, y ver que mes a mes o año a año incrementa el dinero que reciben por la certificación de carbono debido al incremento en la captura que se realizan en esos suelos. Yo creo que es parte de la transformación importante donde los agricultores y productores ganaderos, por ejemplo, son indispensables para este cambio y llegar al equilibrio que estamos buscando a nivel de sostenibilidad. Estamos esperanzados también de que este esfuerzo que estamos lanzando para descarbonizar 3 líneas productivas, específicamente café, ganadería y caña de azúcar, también sea bien valorado en los mercados internacionales. No es lo mismo llegar a vender un café de calidad a un café de calidad reconocida, pero además poder decir que ese café en su proceso productivo capturó más carbono que el que generó. Entonces yo creo que es también darle un poco vuelta y decirle a los mercados, miren, estamos haciendo lo que nos han estado solicitando, ahora ustedes van a hacer también su parte reconociéndolo, ya sea en precio o en algunos otros incentivos. Y creo que eso es un reto bastante interesante que desde Costa Rica estamos felices de lanzar.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for sharing these innovative approaches that you have in Costa Rica for ensuring that the farmers are benefiting from your carbon schemes. Thank you so much. Let me move on then to Undersecretary Robert Bonney with the following question. In the context of monitoring and measuring the impacts of climate-smart technologies and innovations, how can we ensure that marginalized communities and small-scale producers benefit equitably? And what mechanisms can be put in place to track and promote their resilience? Thank you.
Great. Thank you. It's good to be with all of you this morning. An honor to be on this panel. So this is a critically important issue. It's an important issue as we think about not only productivity and farmer livelihoods, but particularly debates around climate change and how we measure and monitor the impacts of climate-smart agriculture on the climate as we go forward. And the equity issues are critical. If you know anything about the history of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, we've discriminated against farmers in the past, and we have not always supported all of agriculture. And so thinking about equity is critical in everything we do, whether it's our traditional farm programs, whether it's climate change or other issues. And so designing equity into what we do is particularly important, particularly as we think about science and technology and the innovation that small farmers, small producers, historically underserved producers may have in accessing those technologies. And so we think about it in the world of finance. How do we provide capital to small and underserved and medium-sized producers? We provide farm loans. How do we make sure that we provide capital that can help folks access those technologies? We have a new farm loan rule that creates better loan servicing, access to capital for small, medium-sized, and historically underserved producers in the U.S. We also think about the context of how we design our climate change programs. We have a new program called Partnerships for Climate Smart Commodities. We're creating partnerships to deploy climate smart practices at scale. We're making sure we do that, as we do that everybody can participate. So every one of these projects has to have an equity plan of how it's going to reach out to smaller producers, underserved producers, and others. And science and technology is critical as part of that, as is measurement, monitoring, reporting, and verification. All those projects have MMRV plans and efforts to make sure that the smaller producers can access the technologies that are part of that. We also think about this issue in the context of our risk management tools. So we provide crop insurance and other forms of risk management to farmers across the country, and making sure that we serve all crops, that we serve all producers is critically important. And they've got the risk management tools to be able to make investments in their own operations to bring in the latest science and technology is critical. We're also making substantial investments through President Biden's Inflation Reduction Act that will allow us to invest in climate smart practices and other conservation practices directly with our farmers, ranchers, and forest landowners. Here again, we're looking for opportunities to partner with black farmers, Native American tribes, and other small producers and others to be able to deliver those conservation dollars and to support the type of investments in technology, innovation, MMRV through that program. So our hope is to bring an equity lens to everything we do, to recognize that if we're going to meet our global food goals, if we're going to support farmer livelihoods, and if we're going to address the great sustainability challenges, that we need to make sure we're serving everyone, and it's critically important for USDA to do that. And the last thing I'll say is we also recognize that we can learn a lot from others. Costa Rica has been a leader in carbon markets, in conservation for a long, long time. Our interactions with everyone here through other forum like Aim for C are critically important, both for us to share our knowledge, but also for us to learn from others how we can both drive innovation in technology and make sure it's accessible to everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Undersecretary, for outlining that very inclusive approach towards your equity plans, and also the importance of measuring, reporting, and of course the risk management aspects. You touched on a whole lot of very important elements there. Thank you so much. So now I'd like to move on to His Excellency Badr Hisham with the following question, please. What specific innovations from your country, Egypt, have demonstrated the most significant impact on improving climate resilience? And how can these lessons be applied to benefit small-scale producers globally? Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Good morning. Director General, Dr. Xu Dongzhu, thank you very much and congratulations for a very successful World Food World Forum. I've served here, as you know, for many years, but when I entered FAO, this time it's a different FAO. It's a FAO, a dynamic hub that provides, as you said, answers, solutions to people on the ground. Not talking over the clouds, terms, intellectual, academic, no. Solutions, people now had enough and you provide a beacon of hope. We are in a world where there's very little hope. We're seeing people being killed, injustice has prevailed, and therefore, when you come into this organization, you provide hope for people. And beyond hope, you give them a hand. Instead of putting a gun in a hand, you put a hand in hand. And this is what the world needs. So I want to thank you for that very much, for this. I wanted to share with you this morning something we have done in Egypt. No other country has done it around the world. When we hosted COP27, we thought, okay, we're going to bring 60,000 people around the world. What does it mean for the normal Egyptian man and woman? How does the normal Egyptian youth benefit from a COP meeting that has all these people talking? So we wanted to bring COP home, to bring it home, literally to every home, not only to Sharm el-Sheikh, but to literally every home. Therefore, we said we're going to make a competition for the 106 million Egyptians. Whoever has a project which is green, and we define what green is, sustainability, emissions, solar, wind, waste management, smart, digital, innovative technology, both two together, and to be replicable and inclusive, etc., presented on a website. In all the 27, what you call provinces, Dr. Chu, we call governors in Egypt. And so to allow everyone to participate, we made a category for women, category for small projects, medium, large, startups, nonprofit. And we told them, present them. And then we would take the winners, the best of these projects, and give them finance, link them to institutional investors, link them to banks, link them to the UN, link them to FAO, and FAO was very, very helpful. Mr. Hakim here, regional director, upon the instruction of Dr. Shu, gave them and take them to COP, showcase them to the world. As a result of this, in the first year, we received 6,000 projects. Second year, 6,000. Third year, 6,000. So we have 18,000 projects. We picked the best out of them. And I think we have 2 slides here to show you today. But the idea is that once you get them, what do you do? Well, besides finance them and interlink them, etc., we have today in Egypt a list, a database of green smart projects. So when we talk to our industrialized nations and tell them, we in Africa, we are not the cause of the emissions. You are responsible. Said, we want to help, but give us projects. We tell them, well, the government has many projects. Says, no, we're not interested in government projects. We want projects from the private sector. We want projects. Tell them, here you are. For the first time, we have in Egypt a database of green smart projects and a mapping where they exist in Upper Egypt and Alexandria, near Cairo, in the 27. So then we can see from this, we can go to the next slide. We had only 2 slides. They told us not to show. Here, these are the total in the last 2 years. We have another one for this year. But see, as you can see, we got from all the kind of projects that are presented, women, nonprofit, startups, small scale, etc. These were the projects. So when the Egyptians voted with their projects, they chose these. Next slide. You might ask, what kind of projects did the Egyptians choose? The number 1 out of the qualified, there were 12,000, but the qualified that filled all the requirements was 3,800. That's in the first 2 rounds. Number 1 was in waste management in Egypt. So the Egyptians chose waste management, 674. Then energy, 647. Then climate adaptation, sustainable agriculture, emissions, pollution, water, green building, circular economy, smart, sustainable. All these are projects on the ground. They're not theoretical ideas. We don't accept theoretical academic ideas. You have a project, it's small, but it's on the ground, working, bring it to us, we'll look at it. If it's inclusive, if it helps everyone, we will support you. And this has been a very successful. It made people aware. People in Egypt said, there is hope. Yes. They said, but Ambassador, they tell me, Ambassador, I don't have money. You're telling me about smart green, it's too sophisticated. Then because you don't have that amount, look out of the box, go through this, and you can change the trash, the garbage, the waste into treasure. And there's a lot of waste, and a lot have been changed. So there's a lot of awareness. We've been able to reach 18 million people in the first 2 rounds alone to give them awareness, and then give them, of course, to do that, you had to have capacity building. because obviously people don't know, the governments don't know in many of these places what is green. How do you evaluate a project? How do you choose which is the most successful project? We had to educate and make capacity building and training all over Egypt, in all governorates, and put in every governorate and institutions people who know about environment, people who know about technology, people who know about successful projects. And therefore, we made a capacity building, empowering and enabling all of the Egyptian apparatus to be able to judge this, plus encouraging people to go, and not to go with a paper bureaucracy, just to send it online, and then take them to COP. We took the 18 winners to Sharm el-Sheikh, to Dubai, and we're taking, with the help of FAO, 18 of the winners to Baku, Azerbaijan, to tell the world there's a model. If you want to do the same, whether you're in developing countries or developed countries, come join us. We will show you how we did it, because we don't want lessons from people. We also can show the way. We in the South, we in Egypt, with the South group, the group of South, can also have solutions. We know our problems, and we can solve our solutions. So we can also lead the way, and we are willing today. I know that my time is limited. I'm going to speak later for half an hour. But we can also say how we can contribute and we can work. And if you're interested, already the Arab League has said that this is the best initiative that was presented for sustainability and inclusiveness. And we are working with the African Union and working with other partners to show that this could be a model, could be applied in different countries, so that we can do it not by talk, but by action and by making people's life better. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, we're working on that. That's very important.
Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Indeed, an excellent example of really marrying that global, the global system of a COP together with the ground-up examples and learning something. Perhaps it was a surprise to see, indeed, that energy. That waste management was the number one request. Very interesting. Thank you. So now we'll move on to Dr. Joe Puri, who is, as I said earlier, I'm sorry. Yes. Oh, you.
Whichever.
Should I go with you? Yeah. Okay. So Dr. Chopuri is sitting next to me here, and let me find your question. From IFAD, she's Special Advisor for Strategic Initiatives, and we wanted to ask you the following. What are the most effective metrics for measuring the impact of agri-food system innovations on small-scale producers and marginalized populations? And how can these metrics account for various outcomes such as food security, nutrition, climate resilience, and equity? Over to you.
Thank you so much, Beth, and such a privilege for me to be here. Excellencies, colleagues, thank you very much. So let me start with, I think, possibly a provocative statement, which is evidence is not enough. Just because an innovation works, and Beth, in your opening, you alluded to this, there are so many innovations that have just fallen by the wayside. We recognize that there is an S-curve of innovation, right? You start with the sandbox, you start to think about ancillary support work that the Undersecretary talked about, and then you start to think about how it goes viral, and in Costa Rica, we have a demonstrable idea of what has worked or what is working globally. So I want to give you an example of how we are combining that with measurement. The big challenge that I think we all witness, and also in the context of climate and COP, is yes, we want to all invest in resilience, whether that is resilience to conflict or to natural hazards. But how can we truly scale it up so that we can bring in the private sector and truly amplify a lot of the investment on the ground? We started with thinking about our investments on the ground. So IFAD invests in more than 80 countries, and we invest in market access, income, agricultural productivity, and improving resilience. But resilience is a many splendid thing. Many people, your resilience is brought about in a very different way from mine. And so while looking at all of these interventions, we decided to measure it with an index called the ability to recover or to respond. And this is an ability to recover or respond with respect to any kind of disruption that might occur. That might be with respect to conflict or with respect to natural hazards. And there, looking both at the household level, so that it is representative of what's happening on the ground, but also at the community level, and comparing that with areas where investments were not going in, but were still having to deal with a lot of the disruption that was coming as a consequence of climate as well as human-made or anthropogenic disruptions. We measure the ability to respond or recover both at the level of the community, but also at the level of the portfolio. That then gives us one measure. And why and how this responds to your question, Beth, is it helps us to measure anything that can improve resilience, whether that is income, whether that is food production, whether that is food security, whether that is improving my ability to sequester carbon. All of that also constitutes improved resilience. So we are able to measure that in an index which covers all of these aspects and compare them with areas that are not receiving that investment. Very final comment on this is that because we've been able to do that, we've also been able to bring in other organizations. The DG spoke about inclusivity, and many of you spoke about participation. The government of Egypt, Rockefeller Foundation, Open Society, they're all collaborating with us now in bringing together a critical mass of partners along with BRAC, and we're really excited and interested in thinking about how FAO can also come in onto this. So really combining forces with them to then see as to how this ability to recover, which is a credible measure, can provide us a way to bring in the private sector, because the private sector now gets bragging rights to essentially say, yes, we improved resilience by 5%, and here is our contribution. So thinking about both a blended finance platform on one side, and second, bringing on the MRV people, the measurement, reporting, and verification people together in a combined platform is one example of how we are looking at a many splendid thing that includes income, food security, and other disruptions, and taking it to scale. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ms. Puri, for that interesting overview of the importance of measuring improved resilience and also working in partnerships, including with the private sector and with other Rome-based agencies. We're always have good partnerships with our sister agencies here in Rome. So last but not least, and apologies for the jumping over here, but we'll move to Ms. Nina Rossini, who is the president of the SIT group in San Marino, and I would like to ask the following question. What innovative approaches in packaging can enhance the sustainability of agri-food systems, and what is their impact on reducing waste?
Thank you very much, and good morning to everybody. I'm so happy and proud to be here to discuss with this huge panel topics that are so important, interesting, and vital for everybody of us. And I'm talking about a technical topic, I can say, packaging, but it has quite a lot of ethical and social impact too, because it's quite cross-lining all the countries, all the situations regarding food too. And we are talking about packaging and sustainability in packaging. Most of all, when it comes to food packaging, means integrating new technologies that reduce food waste, specifically in this case the food waste, while ensuring greater environmental efficiency. This is quite strong in these last years. And the fact is that product is bound by the direct and strict relation to the packaging that contains and protects it, influencing not only the production and transportation, but also its sustainability, its safety, and also the availability to consumers too. And the synergy between product and packaging ensures that both meets the demands of environmental responsibility, efficiency, and also market competitiveness too. And in recent years, we have witnessed a great and extraordinary rise in awareness towards environment and a growing demand for more sustainable production and also consumption practices. And this greater sensitivity has also led to significant innovations in the field of packaging where we work. And one of the most important developments has been, on one side, the shift to monomaterial packaging, which simplifies waste separation, collection, and also the recycling processes, allowing materials to be somehow reintegrated into production cycles. However, a lot has yet to be done to make the recycle of flexible plastic packaging really effective and economically viable. This is a theme. The recycle is the opportunity, but it has to be studied and developed. And additionally, more work is required on chemical recycling in order to truly convert used packaging back into virgin material that could then be reused as a food contact application. And the food contact, as we talk about food, is quite a critical point for legal and legislation topics, but mainly, of course, for safety and for the human safety. On the other side, the packaging are experiencing, when possible, a partial shift from plastic to paper materials, which is easier to manage at the end of its life cycle, we can say. And also some biodegradable and compostable materials are currently focus of extensive research, and however, they could have a potential to reduce environmental impact, even if they are not fully capable to provide the same barrier and the same protection and preservation of the food as the more traditional materials. In general, when we talk about packaging in reducing food waste, this is closely linked to the ability of packaging to improve the product preservation. And the latest innovations focus on enhancing the packaging capability of providing safe and effective barriers against gases, light, and all the other factors that contribute to food degradation. And at the same time, efforts are being made to reduce material thickness and to find and to tailor packaging solutions to the needs of each product, as producing thinner but strong packaging can reduce the use and the consumption of raw material and energy required for its production and transport. These innovative approaches to packaging as a crucial ally in long-term preservation of food have reinforced also the inclusivity and inclusive function of packaging, as it is making food more accessible, we can say. Only when protected well and safely, food can reach, for example, regions of the world facing significant environmental challenges, providing sustenance also to population that otherwise would have not access to it. Food is, without question, the most important resource as it is, and it represents the synthesis and the result of all the resources employed in its production and processing, and providing the packaging that perfectly fits each agri-food product is not just a technical goal in this case, it is an ethical and social responsibility. And we, as stakeholders across the supply chain, are all involved in this mission with the understanding that sustainable packaging support the circular economy and also encourages also the agri-food industry to adopt more and more efficient practices. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rossini. And I think you outlined very well how packaging has multiple effects, right, on preserving food, on environmental impact. And I think this is also an area where consumer awareness indeed has grown significantly, I would say, in recent years, which can also help drive in the right direction. So thank you so much. So that brings us to the end of the panelists' initial interventions, and I'm very happy now to open it up to questions. This includes anybody online who would like to submit a question. It will be sent to me through my phone here. But first, let me look to the floor here, if who would like to break the ice and ask a question. We have about 20 minutes, 15 or 20 minutes. Yes, please, go ahead.
Well, thank you so much, first of all, for the panel, because it was very, very insightful. I found the comment you made about evidence is not enough. And I found it very, very inspiring. But my question maybe to you and the panel as well, we're talking about scalable solutions. Sometimes solutions are defaultly not scalable because we're talking about nature-based solutions that work in specific contexts and not in others. So how do we do it, and how do we do it in timelines that we have? Thank you.
Thank you. Let me first just see if we have any, we can take a few questions. Okay, for others, please think of your questions while we move first to Dr. Bouilly. Thank you.
Thank you, great question. So evidence is not enough because we know there are so many things that do work, but in pilot form. And if you look at the work of, say, John List and many others, they will show that there is a voltage effect, right? You start small, but very few things actually get to what is called the inflection point of adoption, and before they become viral. Facebook, et cetera, have changed our landscape because we think everything should go viral, but it doesn't. And so I think that a few things are required. First, it should be efficacious, and you need the evidence for efficacy. But after that, you need, as I think the Undersecretary also said, you need the ancillary industries and networks to work. And then you need a critical mass of people to adopt. So another example is, and this might appeal to you, is the Science-Based Targets Initiative, so SBTI. They founded their entire business model on understanding that if you can get to 20% of the companies of the world to adopt science-based targets with respect to climate, then you'll have sufficient critical mass that you'll basically take off. They started off with 100 companies. 5 years later, they're at 4,000 and counting companies. So it's definitely gone viral. So I think you need to get to that critical mass, and that's why the participation and the inclusion is really critical. And I think nature-based solutions, blended finance, credit swaps, debt swaps, they're still at their very pilot, almost sandbox phase. It'll require a critical mass of countries to adopt those before we can see the effect that, for example, carbon markets and European trading systems, et cetera, are demonstrating. Thank you.
Please, Undersecretary.
I might take a crack as well. It's a great question. As we think about scale, it's obviously critically important as we think about climate-smart agriculture and the urgency to reduce emissions quickly, particularly with methane and nitrous oxide, but obviously carbon as well. If we think about the risks that farmers already face, market risk, prices, weather risk, we're dealing with 2 very large hurricanes right now in the U.S. and the aftermath of that and the types of risks that brings. And as farmers think about adopting new practices, there are risks associated with that as well. And so many climate-smart practices can enhance productivity, can enhance producers' bottom line, but that doesn't mean that there aren't uncertainties or periods it may take 3 or 5 years to pay them back if they adopt soil health practices or other practices. And so from our standpoint at USDA, we think a lot about how do we de-risk those practices in a way that they can scale quickly. And part of that is sharing the costs, and so providing incentives to share the costs. Part of it is providing better information and better models so they understand the impacts of that before they adopt the practice, so they understand what the implications are for their operations. Part of it is this issue related to technology and the role that technology can play and how they integrate that into their operations, and will that provide access to carbon markets or other opportunities, and again, the opportunity for us to provide information and help there. But I think sometimes we forget that a lot of farmers carry a lot of debt, and this is a risky business they're in. And as we think about how we scale more sustainable practices, we need to think about that in the context of the realities that farmers already face.
Thank you, Undersecretary. Very good questions. Please, the floor is open. There's one at the back. Over there, yes, please, thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the panel. My name is Francelino Rodrigues. I'm a precision agriculture / remote sensing scientist, and I've been working almost 10 years on the CGIAR system, working with research for development. And what I've seen back on that time is that many of the research for development projects, we end up with a very good pilot, but then donors don't realize the importance of having a good business model behind. So then I would like to have your opinions on how you guys are seeing this discussion, because in many instances, we finish the project, let's say 4 or 5 years project, we end up with a very good solution, perhaps regional solution, but then we don't have room for this scaling up component, simply because the donors don't visualize the importance of having a business model in place that can sustain the outputs of that project to go for scaling. So how you guys see the importance of that? And also on the PPP, the public-private partnerships. Like I had an experience on having a project on that with PPP, and I saw that as a very good channel for scaling, no? But then we come up with situations like using public money to sustain a private, let's say, solution, no? So how you guys see all this situation, let's say?
That's a good question. Excellency, please.
Muy buena pregunta. Yo voy a dar la respuesta en el contexto de lo que nosotros estamos haciendo. Costa Rica recibió cooperación y trabajamos en el desarrollo de NAMAs, principalmente en 3 cadenas productivas: café, caña de azúcar y ganadería. Los resultados fueron muy favorables, pero ahora sí, ya terminó el piloto, ya terminó la cooperación, y ¿qué es lo que nosotros debemos hacer? ¿Verdad? Y es ahí donde son los países quienes deben de, por medio de su convencimiento, generar los instrumentos financieros. Nosotros, ¿qué estamos haciendo para que eso no se pierda y ese esfuerzo no culmine como un buen piloto sin poder llevar a cabo? Bueno, estamos justamente en un proyecto con un crédito, con un organismo, Banco Mundial, con FIDA, que hemos estado trabajando por bastantes millones de dólares para un país tan pequeño como Costa Rica, y estamos estructurando soluciones financieras que le permitan a los productores, por acceso a crédito subvencionado, implementar las buenas prácticas en un programa bastante ambicioso. Ahí, ¿qué nos encontramos de retos? Nos encontramos algunos retos que necesariamente Costa Rica es un país en el cual las tasas de interés de los organismos no son tan accesibles, y cuando hablamos de productores, como bien lo decía don Robert, nos encontramos en un problema de sobreendeudamiento en muchos casos, que requiere que las condiciones para un cambio sean condiciones muy, muy, muy accesibles para el productor. Entonces, si vamos a colocar un crédito para un agricultor que implemente buenas prácticas NAMA, y en el mercado anda en el 8 o 9% en un país como Costa Rica, no podríamos nosotros salir con un mecanismo financiero al productor que supere el 4%, porque si no, no hay atractivo. Y cuando llegamos al mercado, vemos que la solución ambientalmente no es muy reconocida, pero no hay una diferenciación en el mercado, sino que simplemente al final llegamos, en muchos casos, con un commodity donde tenemos que irnos a un precio igual. Entonces el incentivo tiene que venir por un convencimiento y buscar los instrumentos financieros para poder amplificarlo. Lo que sí no debe pasar bajo ninguna circunstancia es que en ese modelo de pilotaje no se deje cimentado todo lo necesario para escalarlo luego a nivel nacional. Porque si llegamos a ese piloto sin toda esta otra parte desarrollada, realmente fue un buen esfuerzo, sirven los datos para investigación, pero al final terminamos sin impacto, ¿verdad? Entonces, justamente en esa etapa donde usted está hablando es donde nosotros nos encontramos en el proceso de escalamiento, ya con recursos propios, recursos de organismos, recursos de sector privado a nivel bancario, y también siempre buscando espacios de cooperación para que esos recursos puedan llegar a tasas más accesibles, que tiene que haber necesariamente algún acompañamiento no reembolsable para que los productores puedan hacer ese cambio. Pero creo que eso que usted bien apunta es uno de los retos más importantes a la hora de escalarlo, y justamente es en donde nos encontramos nosotros.
Thank you, and indeed, I think it's a challenge we all have. Dr. Puri, and then Your Excellency, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to make 2 points. First, I'm completely sympathetic, research for development and being a researcher. I have another hat as a researcher. But I think the first part of that is, let's look at the effectiveness at scale. Many researchers think, myself included, that whatever works at the pilot stage on a small scale will work when you implement on large. But evidence of effectiveness on a larger scale is really key. And so it's implementation, implementation, implementation. That's first. But the second, and really taking off on some of the previous remarks, is that we have to bring in different financiers with different risk appetites and put it together into what we now call blended platforms. But grant money, for example, can take on a lot of the risk that my colleagues here were just talking about, because you don't have to repay it. So organizations like FAO, like IFAD, can come in with grant money. That's the lowest tranche. But then you've got to have others who will come in to take on, say, senior debt, and who want to be repaid, but therefore are putting skin in the game for the success of the innovation. Their first incentive is to get repaid. Ensuring that we've got a melding of those kind of different risk appetites, grant money, debt, equity, bringing all of that together then puts skin in the game, but still creates enough space for failure, right? That grant money is providing you space for failure, but if you're making returns, you've got the private sector coming in with debt and equity to essentially say, yeah, we are putting in skin, and therefore we will be interested in scaling this up. And I think if we can find more of those platforms where we are marrying those risk appetites, we've got something. Thanks.
Please.
Thank you. This is a very interesting question, because from our model, we've applied this on the ground. So we have, for example, from the 18,000 projects, we'll take the top 500 successful. How do you ensure that it's scalable and continues? Very interesting. First, as you said, partnerships. My job is Assistant Minister for Strategic Partnerships. So how to get everyone involved in the evaluation, in picking the projects, in picking out of the 18,000 projects, which 10, which 100 do you pick? The people that choose from people on the ground, businessmen, scientists, academicians, people of experience. That's the first pick, to make sure that you're picking the right projects. Second, of course, risk is related to also priorities. For example, water scarcity. We have in Egypt, someone presented a drone that goes exactly to the leakage of a water pipe. Instead of wasting 2-3 days before knowing where the leakage is, this finds it immediately. Even if it's high, even if it's costly, but that's very important because we have a water issue. We have, for example, Egypt is the biggest producer of dates in the world. Dates. And one of the biggest dangers that faces palm trees in the world is called sea weaver. It's a little insect. This guy who made the project presented a technology that hears this insect while it's eating. And within 2 weeks, then he has to intervene to do. Anyhow, how do we sustain this? The FAO, for example, helped with this. You get all the UN community, you get the bankers. This is our job. Here's the project. We don't know, okay? Help them, make it more scalable, help them to be bigger, provide the smart solution, provide the IT, bring each one to do something, and to take them forward since there is a platform. When there is a platform, then you're not alone. If you're alone, then of course you'll have to meet the risk, you don't know how to do it. But if you present it to a platform, maybe you meet a bureaucratic hurdle. I want to do this project, but this ministry is not helping me. Then as a platform, we intervene, help this guy. Then you become a model. Obviously, one of our projects began with $7 million. In 2 years, it became $350 million. One began with $5,000. In 1 year, he had $1 million. These, my friend, are models. So when other people say, if he did it, if he changed sewage water into jojoba plant, which is used for oil for cosmetics and planes, then I can do the same. And there's a lot of sewage. Who doesn't have sewage? If you can change sewage into plant and you can use it, therefore you provide models. People say, I want to be that model in a practical, very pragmatic, and you have a platform and you have all the partnerships in which everyone, what you need, we can provide either from private sector, public sector, banks, international, United Nations, etc. So it's not easy, but I think when you have this platform or network or hub, that can help in answering your question, my friend.
Thank you so much. Now I know that we have 2 more questions from the floor and 1 offline, and we have 10 minutes. So what I'm going to do is we'll listen to all 3 questions, and then I'll turn back to the panel before wrapping up. So let me go first there.
Thank you very much. My name is Danilo Salerno. I'm the Regional Director for the Americas of the International Cooperative Alliance. We are based in Costa Rica, so possibly my question is for the Minister, but also for the Undersecretary, because we have members also from the US, supported from the Department of Agriculture, very active with supporting to cooperatives and smallholder farmers. Possibly sometimes innovation is linked with conservation. Is the best way to innovate is conserve the environment, sometimes not. We had a small project funded by the EU delegation in Costa Rica, ensuring job conditions for coffee farmers, for coffee pickers coming from Nicaragua and Panama, in order to avoid child labor and to give access to the family, to the coffee pickers, to education, health services in the community. And this project, supported and known as Casa de la Alegría, has been awarded for the quality of the coffee by the Illy Cafe here in Italy. So speaking about scaling, and not necessarily just from a volume point of view, how to ensure the inclusiveness of the people in the production, in the value chain, but at the same time in the market, when sometimes you have a quality product, but there are barriers for access, like the one in the European market. I don't know if it is clear, or possibly the same barrier could exist with the US market from the people and small cooperatives from the South. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. So like I said, I'll do all 3, and then I'll turn back to the panel. Please, sir, over to you.
Good morning. My name is Luca Guzzoni from Sustainable Development Agency from Switzerland. I've heard that you do different kind of initiative from the business and corporate point of view, from public and private sector. And we know that public and private sector that don't talk in the same language for the main reason that private sector look mainly to the money. Investors, they look at the money to make the decisions to invest in any project and see how they can have the revenues. Revenues are dictated from consumers, and the market price is controlled by the trend of the consumers. And the question is, from public and private sector, how is or what has been done from social behavior change point of view, activities or initiative to influence the consumers and then make more successful any kind of project that you have decided to support? Thanks.
Thank you for that question. And then one more question. Now, unfortunately, we're starting to run out of time, but I will do the one online and then in the back corner, and then I'll have to close it off. So this question, I would, judging by the topic, I would say is for you, Ms. Rossini, which is how to choose materials and production methods that reduce energy consumption and emissions while making food packaging. One more, and then we'll turn to the panel.
Hello, my name is Juliana. I work for a scientific consultancy, and I just wanted to highlight, I came late, so I don't know whether you've discussed this already, but I just want to highlight that we are facing, in many studies and analysis we conduct, the problem of lack of data, just very basic production data, especially in the development context, and well, baseline data, economic data, and so on. And yes, I just wanted to hear your opinion on that. Thanks.
So thank you. That was a broad range of very interesting questions. Which of the panel members would like to go first?
So I'll jump in on a couple. I think yours and also the question over here about private sector involvement, consumers, how we involve them as well. So I mentioned an effort at USDA called Partnerships for Climate Smart Commodities. It's an effort to scale up climate smart practices, but to do it in a way that will find value in the marketplace, and value that flows back down to farmers and folks in the supply chain. And if we don't do that, we're not solving the problem. And so, you know, as I think back 15 years ago, I think we were all convinced that the fundamental model was going to be something like an emissions trading model where we were going to finance purely through carbon credits. What we're finding in the US through our partnerships effort and other efforts is that it's going to be a plethora of different approaches. Carbon markets will be part of it. Consumer markets, the secretary was in Pennsylvania yesterday in the US talking about some of the outcomes of our partnerships program. You can buy climate smart beer in the US right now. A company, Fat Tire, is producing climate smart beer. So there are some consumer products that are actually trying to market that. We also have a lot of consumer-facing companies that are interested in greening their supply chain, and so they're less interested in putting a label, but they've taken commitments, and they're thinking about how they look down their supply chain and reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. All of which is to say, I think there are going to be a lot of different tools. I think there are going to be a lot of ways that we try and find value in the marketplace. Some of it will be consumer-facing. Some of it will be businesses that look down their supply chain. Some of it will be carbon markets. And our effort in the US at USDA is to try and find that and to provide a menu of approaches that will work, and importantly, that we hope that the benefits will flow not only to farmers but to rural communities as well.
Thank you very much.
Bueno, nuevamente buenos días. Voy a hacer énfasis en dos, tal vez separar dos partes de la consulta. Lo primero es la Casa de la Alegría. Casas de la Alegría, para contextualizar, es un programa que brinda alimentación, cuidado, educación y salud a todos los niños de los recolectores migrantes de café. Es un programa que desde el gobierno de Costa Rica nosotros hemos invertido una cantidad muy importante de recursos año a año por mantener por medio de asistencia social estas casas con alimentación. El programa, la parte de sostenibilidad, en realidad durante varios años la Unión Europea estuvo colaborando con recursos justamente para disminuir el riesgo de trabajo infantil. En este momento el gobierno de Costa Rica continúa junto con el sector privado costarricense manteniendo a flote el programa y garantizando el no trabajo infantil. Ahora bien, Costa Rica no solo tiene ese programa, tenemos acceso pleno a seguros de salud para todos los recolectores de café y tenemos seguro de riesgo del trabajador como cualquier otro oficinista que puede estar en una oficina en la ciudad con un trabajo completamente seguro. ¿Qué sucede ahí? Esto no se ve reflejado necesariamente en el consumidor, porque usted va acá y viene y compra una bolsa de café y esta bolsa de café no nos garantiza el origen, y si nos garantiza el origen, posiblemente nos garantiza el origen con una cantidad de mezclas muy importante. Entonces, si un consumidor quiere generar este vínculo con el productor que está justamente haciendo este trabajo correctamente, hoy difícilmente va y lo logra, porque en el supermercado, en la cafetería, son muy pocos puntos en donde podemos ver una bolsa que traiga toda esa información y principalmente que garantice el contenido de un único grupo de productores que están haciendo bien las cosas. Entonces ahí se vuelve un reto importante porque ¿cómo garantizamos que lo que está haciendo bien un grupo de productores se vea reflejado al menos en un acceso al mercado de información de los consumidores cuando en el intermedio tenemos digamos, tendremos diferentes empresas que hacen una cantidad importante de mezclas de distintos orígenes para generar una receta que al final es la que consume los consumidores finales. Entonces, ese espacio yo creo que el reto ahora es cómo, para darle sostenibilidad aún mayor, y un incentivo aún mayor es cómo garantizamos que al consumidor final tenga acceso a la información que está detrás de esa bolsa de café. Con respecto a, y ahí hablamos un poco también del acceso a los mercados. Nosotros hemos hecho un esfuerzo muy importante para estar listos para la implementación, pese a la escasa información. Tendíamos a pensar que ya estábamos listos para las reglas, ahora nos damos cuenta que se posponen por 12 meses inicialmente, y con un trabajo hecho muy importante y una inversión bastante cuantiosa. A veces decían en mi escuela que no era bueno ser el más listo de la clase porque siempre él trabajaba más. Y ahí generamos un problema de un riesgo de un costo hundido de haber hecho un esfuerzo muy importante que luego tenga que sufrir algunas variaciones y se dan modificaciones al final. Entonces, yo creo que las reglas deben de ser claras y también viene un tema que no es menor y es un mercado secundario. Cuando usted es agricultor, sabe que si usted no cumple el 100% de las reglas, le van a castigar en el precio sustancialmente y alguien posiblemente va a querer tener una ganancia mayor. ¿Qué estamos viendo ahora? Y a mí particularmente me genera un temor importante es cuando tenemos quien cumple con reglas para ingresar a Unión Europea, y no hablo de un productor per se, puede ser de diferentes países, podríamos ver un mercado secundario con precios muy bajos. Y este mercado secundario, pues necesariamente puede generar un impacto en la sostenibilidad de los productores que aún están cumpliendo con las normas para ingresar al mercado europeo, porque podríamos ver el precio de los productos de segunda severamente deteriorados y una reducción que complique la sostenibilidad financiera de los productores. Entonces yo creo que ahí hay que ver un poco bien el escenario financiero para determinar cuál es el camino a seguir, no solo por los que estamos cumpliendo bien, haciendo la tarea, por así decirlo, y cumpliendo con toda la normativa, sino qué va a suceder en aquellos mercados en donde no se hizo el trabajo correctamente y no va a poder ingresar al mercado. ¿Qué va a suceder con estos productores? ¿A dónde se van a ir esos productos? ¿Y cómo van a generar una distorsión en el mercado general que podría complicar las finanzas de todos los productores? Y eso es algo que es importante también tener presente.
Thank you so much for those, again, very, very interesting examples, and I appreciate this very interactive discussion. We are running out of time, but I will move very quickly to you, and then maybe also to either of the other speakers for any final comments.
Okay.
Thank you. So you had one question. Thank you.
The question was how to choose the best packaging, the best sustainable packaging. I have to say that we are in an ongoing process, I can say, because of, as I said, packaging is a technical topic, but it has ethical impact, and it has a strong relation with the perception of population of people, and it's quite emotional. So every individual can have a perception of packaging is more sustainable, less sustainable, just feeling it, touching it, seeing it. And this is quite an issue because, of course, also the European legislation is following some great waves of perception, for example, against plastic. Of course, plastic can be a problem. The main problem is the culture of consumption and collection and separation, because if we use plastic as the other materials in the right way, we can direct that material to express its best potential by protecting food. But it is a topic. So the best way to approach the topic is make it technical, make it a number at the end. So we need to create and to build up in these years we are doing this, but it's not so easy because the matter is quite complicated. We are trying to build in the associations, in the platforms, to create a metric to measure objectively the sustainability of the packaging. And the driver in this case is not the end of the life cycle, but it's a life cycle assessment. So the LCA will be the driver, the main guide to understand what is the packaging that is sustainable, 10 against 1 against 2, considering all the supply chain, all the waste that we can avoid, all the resources that we are employing, starting from the beginning, from the land, when you just grow up your agri-food products, till the last part of the life of the product that hopefully has to be a recycle. But also in the recycle, when we talk about food packaging, we need to consider also one very important value, that is the safety and health of the consumer. So this is a match. 3 days ago, it was presented in the parliament in Italy, a proposal of a metric of some indicators. It's a guideline to develop the LCA that should be the driven to understand which is the right metric to measure it. But it's not yet arrived. So it's an ongoing working. Thank you.
I think this important measurement is coming up a lot in our discussion today. Final thoughts, Ambassador, and then I'll go to you, Dr. Puri. And then we'll
Thank you. The question was, how does the consumer, how do you get the consumer start operating? Eventually, you're creating an ecosystem in which the consumer will feel the result or the product of this climate technology. The heart of the matter is what? Is to change a problem. What is the problem? The problem is the climate issue. How do you change a climate difficulty or challenge into a profitable venture? So how do you change that into something make money? The consumer must feel it. If the consumer does not feel it, of course you can talk about the awareness, about the environment, about the future, about the earth, about the planet, but at the end of the day, as you are insinuating from your question, the consumer must feel his pocket. Therefore, I'll give you 6 examples of the projects we have. For example, if by green building, you're saving 40% of the money than normal building. So if you're in Egypt and the guy proposes, here it is, I'm making green building from recycled material, and it costs 40% less, the consumer will feel it. Fashion, sustainable fashion. We have many projects. Women who have turned trash into beautiful clothes, beautiful jewelry from trash in the house. Beautiful. You would think it's, I don't want to mention brand names in Italy, so I don't want to offend anyone. Beautiful. The consumer feels it. The equivalent is $10,000. This is sold for $10. You can't mail the difference. Another example, a lady in Alexandria who took all the remains of the computers, the old computers, the big desks we have, and she takes them and she made something called LD cutters. And she sold her product in the market for 30% of the other competition. So if the machine that was there for 80,000 pounds, this 20,000. The consumer felt it. All these examples are of things that the consumer has felt directly. Therefore, eventually, people will realize that I'm going through the climate solutions and climate is good, not only because of the future generations, but because it affects my pocket. Then you create this ecosystem in which everyone feels, no, I'm going to that. I'm going to the good packaging because it's cheaper, it's healthier, and that is the issue if we can bring. And here we need all of you. I understand you're from a certain situation, the lady from scientific. We need all this partnership. We are here to put our hands together. We can't do it alone. You cannot do it alone. But if we learn from Nenni, and I'm glad she's here with us, because this is a concrete example. We have 18,000 of these examples in these years in Egypt for presented models. She can learn from them, and they can learn from her. And that's why it's important always to have someone down, although it's technical, it's packaging, But we learn because people are not had enough of talking about theoretical concepts of sustainability and economic things. They need to see the results on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Dr. Putti, final words from you?
Thank you. So I started with evidence is not enough, but I want to say returns are not enough. Yeah, when you, thank you, when you bring, and I appreciate that, you know, a 10% increase, etc., that's not enough because the other thing that matters to investors and financiers is risk. How much risk are you facing when you are investing in something? So an example, and the social behavior change that you alluded to, digressive insurance is one model where we are slowly but surely reducing the amount of premiums that farmers have to pay on insurance so that that behavior change takes place over 5 years. So the first year we pay 90% of the premium, but by the last year we pay 0% of the premium. And that risk-taking ability, I think, of investors is really key. Also helps PPPs. Thank you.
Let us give a big round of applause to the panelists. Really an excellent, thank you so much for this excellent discussion. I think there's no need for me to wrap it up because you've all done such an excellent job of really pulling out the key points, and thank you so much for the interaction of the audience. And those of you on screen, I know there were more questions, but we really have to end now, so thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, you were fantastic. Thank you. No, you guys were really